Well, welcome to the first actual session of Shadows over Shadowshade, which is a campaign for Shadow of the Demon Lord. We had a little sort of intro session, sort of informal, with Ghost, aka Reinnold, heading off to the town of Filton to recover the wares left there by his family when he and his father fled in the middle of the night with just a few things in a cart to the small town of Shadowshade, and he went back 2 weeks later to try to gather up the rest of their stuff from the old shop they used to own in town. And so when we are picking back up, we are in the village of Shadowshade, and right now I'm taking you to a map of the village. You'll probably have to zoom out quite a bit because it's the whole village. It's rather large. And if you look up in the upper left corner, you'll see there is our buddy Reinnold and this odd man that he found on the road who says his name is Foster. So that is where we are starting. So you have just come back into town, Reinnold. Your new home is down in the lower right corner of the map. Foster seems very curious about this place, like he's never seen this little fortified manor house up top there, and the other buildings. He just kind of looks around and wonder, like, what is this strange place?
And so I would start heading back into town, and then forgetting myself, obviously, that I have this weirdo with me.
Yeah, he just kind of tags along.
So I tell him, good Foster, perhaps you might ingratiate yourself upon some of these fine townsfolk. I have a matter to discuss with my father. It's best left in private.
He says something to the effect, if you could understand exactly what he's saying, but you can tell he's saying something that he would be happy to meet the unguided kin around this strange place. And he sees a woman at the well down there in the center of the village, and he seems quite taken with what he sees there. And as she kind of heads off between those buildings, he says that he will be happy to remake your acquaintance at a later time.
I pat him on the shoulder, start walking away.
Okay. Yeah, he goes off in pursuit to see what strange sight this woman with two legs is.
If only ever had one where I'm from. All right. So it's this house here, correct?
It's the one way down at the bottom there.
And I would enter. Oh, there's the door. Uh-oh.
Yeah, so my little conventions for showing you where doors are, because I like to use the lighting, is those little dots. Wherever you see a dot, that's going to indicate a door, because it's...
I remember.
My experience has shown that it's a little difficult for players to know where doors are sometimes.
I would just walk in, because my dad never locks the door. Not very bright. Said, Father, I have returned. I have poor news to deliver to you, and I would say that without seeing the other man in the room. Would Well, if you're otherwise engaged, Father, I can step outside.
And so am I talking to Wrecker for some specific reason, or?
Yeah, at the moment when your son walks in, Wrecker has been working on restoring this broken down house, which you imagine will become a shop. There's quite a bit of work. It hasn't been maintained in years. And you have promised him, in exchange for his labors, as he's the new blacksmith in town and also has some carpentry skills, that you will repay him with tools from your shop in town when they arrive.
Okay. So Otto is standing, kind of eyeing Wrecker's workmanship, and like, yes, yes, yes. No, do this. And he points over to some part of the door that's cracked, and he's like, it must be fixed before we continue. Use those brass rings. And he points at some hardware that's sitting there, and he kind of like looks over his shoulder, and he's like, Reinnold, what was that you said? And he has a pipe in one hand, and the smoke is lifting off the edge of the pipe as he kind of looks at you. He's like, what did you say? Problems? Of course there's always problems.
Yes, Father. I was waylaid on the road by banditry.
He gives you a very disapproving stare, and he's like, very well, let's step outside and hear what you have to say for yourself. And before he leaves, he tells Ricker, he's, continue, no reason to waste time.
I do not waste time, unlike you.
And he just rolls his eyes, and he's like, get to work. And he just walks outside immediately.
I'm sure Wrecker is grateful for the momentary solitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll walk over to the brass.
As I walk out the door, it's 8.
He'll walk over to the brass rings and pick them up, look at them, and just shake his head like, "Shoddy workmanship."
Yeah, this house was not very well made.
Yeah, so outside, he kind of takes a drag off his pipe and exhales deeply, and he's like, well, what do you have to say? Where's the cart?
I had procured the supplies as you asked at my return trip here. 4 men, orc included, waylaid me, threatened my life, and took our cart and goods.
Do I hear anything that he's saying?
He delivered a message.
You can, if you're trying to listen, you can.
No, I'm not prone to listen. I just want to know if I hear anything, because he did mention the word orc.
Let's try your first perception check. If you select your token, I've put little macros for all the main things on there, and PER is perception, so you could do a quick perception check for me with no particular modifications.
Cast a little circle. I did it right.
And unless otherwise stated, your target is always 10. You're trying to get a 10. And that, so you hear them talking in low tones, but you can't quite make out.
Okay. It's typical mumbling. Okay, all good.
Otto closes his eyes and puts his hand without the pipe over the bridge of his nose and squeezes it as his face scrunches up. He's like, waylaid by bandits. What time did you leave the town? In the middle of the night, like a fool?
No, Father, I was waylaid in broad daylight because they have no need to worry about a caravannier without caravan guards.
And he sighs heavily, and he's like, it looks like you're sleeping on the floor. What are we supposed to do to replace all those goods? We have wholly nothing. Nothing, and now less than nothing.
I suppose for once we'll perhaps we can do some dishonest work, as I have a tip, as it were, with some of the less than reputable individuals in the riverbank of our old city.
And he's like, and that would be what? Tip on what? How to waylay more carts?
No,
Should we
Father,
talk them to death?
We might if you go to see them, but instead I suggest that we take them up on their rather low prices and sell their goods at a higher rate, as they'll sell fish for probably fully a fifth or a fourth of what it's actually worth, out of desperation.
And he rubs his beard and says, very well, we could use some goods to sell. I don't care where the stock comes from.
Yes, of course we'll need packs, or
Maybe a cart.
Yes, maybe a cart. I've been tasked with something in return for my life by the bandits. I also have this for you.
And
Given in town.
And he's like, and what is that? And he looks down, kind of expecting you to hand him something.
This gentleman, I honestly can't recall his name, but if you remember, maybe I'd remember. I could try to remember.
You remember his name is Hans, or you probably know him as Mr. Saltzman.
Yes. This letter was from a Mr. Saltzman. He said he had some business with you. I took it out of politeness. He was in my way.
Very well. Let me see it.
Hand it to him.
Okay. It is sealed and apparently unopened.
He breaks the seal and begins to read.
All right. It is in your, you should see a little handout for you.
I also have to go and deliver a ransom message to the wizard south of town at some point soon, or else his apprentice will end up hung, decapitated, possibly raped by an orc. I don't remember what threats they made.
I'm not concerned with any of that. You're away from them. They're not going to kill you now.
Wrecker, you did hear mention of orc that time. That one word stood out from their conversations.
And he's continuing to look down at the message, and he just kind of like folds it and says, this is of no concern of anyone, a bunch of gibberish. The man owes me money, and he's trying to get out of his debt.
Yes, of course. All the same, I intend to deliver the ransom message.
Go ahead,
having
Wolf.
heard the word, having heard the word orc, I will cleverly devise a means of outrightly eavesdropping. My means being, as long as you approve, I'm going to pick up about 2 or 3 dead rats that I managed to find today. A couple of them I probably killed. And I'm just going to pick them up and saunter to the door, open the door, and sling them outside.
Uh-huh.
And if y'all acknowledge my presence, they're basically like, watch your head. Just chuck the rats out.
Looking at the rats, and Father, you must be cooking tonight.
If y'all acknowledge my presence, I'll look at you, and I'll just go, I hope your landlord gave you a good price.
And Otto kind of like reels at the rats, and
wait for y'all to respond.
Yeah, he kind of reels at the rats, and he's like, Vile, keep those away from me. And he looks at you, and he says, what am I paying you for, to stand around? Hello?
Who are you paying to stand around, me or him?
Oh, Ricker, I'm not paying you anything.
Clearly saying it, you don't get paid squat.
Damn it.
You get paid in beatings.
Yeah, he kind of steps back away to put you both in his vision, and he kind of says offhandedly to Reinnold, he says, why would you deliver anything? This is nonsense. I have things for you to do here, not to go off on an adventure and get yourself killed or, worse, our goods stolen.
They have no more goods to steal from me, Father. Besides, the wizard's tower is a short walk from here compared to going back uptown.
We lost Wolf.
Oh, let's just give him a second to come back.
Oh, there he is. The return of the Mac. The return of the wreck.
Time to get wrecked.
He kind of says, "This is something we can talk about later, Reinnold. I don't like this at all. Getting yourself involved in things that you should not."
I have a deep suspicion, Father, that it runs in the family.
Be quiet now. Be quiet. And he turns to Wrecker and he says, "Well, did you fix the door?"
Okay, temporarily, I'd just be standing lumbering in the doorway, just blatantly staring at y'all as y'all continue talking. Then when you turn to me, I'll just go, "The door'll be fixed soon enough. This is the young one, your boy. I heard him say something about orc. I
Yes.
do not like orcs.
Does anyone? Vile
Are
creatures.
Where did you see this one?
He's among a troop of highwaymen north of here between our old town and this place.
He
And
travel with other orcs?
No, just men. A slimy one thought himself as much of a businessman, but nothing but a mere bandit with eloquent vocabulary.
And it stands to reason they've stolen your payment.
Mine?
Aye, yours. The goods that I was going to give you in exchange for repairing the house were on the cart that Reinhold lost to this orc and his friends.
I guess I'm done for the day then.
At the word lost, I'll roll my eyes like, oh.
And he says, "But perhaps I could interest you in another venture."
You have my attention for the moment.
Well, you see, my son is hell-bent on getting himself into trouble, and, well, since you have no tools, perhaps you would help us in reclaiming them and running off on whatever fool's errand my son has decided to go upon.
Would such a thing mean that we could kill orcs?
Well, I won't be killing anyone, but feel free if there's an orc that has our goods.
I don't expect there to be any conflict unless the wizard decides to roast the two of us if you come with me, though I seem to suspect that he might be a reasonable man.
Calls himself a wizard. What is a man that calls himself a wizard reasonable?
He does not call himself a wizard, Father. The townspeople are superstitious and call him a wizard. He may just be an old man in a tower.
I'm sure he's quite demented, as all these fools are.
Anyway, and I would look at Wrecker and, "You're the blacksmith, then?"
Aye, so they say.
This is fortuitous because I was told to put the payment of the wizard in a sack behind your home.
No, in Filton. Sorry.
Oh, Filton. Oh.
Just to remind you, yeah.
Ah, okay. Never mind then.
Yeah, it's
I redact that.
Yeah.
Redact that.
Mhm.
Not
Well,
it.
whatever deal my father wishes to make with you, I intend to make the journey regardless.
I look at the two of y'all, try to size y'all up, and you go, either one of y'all good with the blade?
Just look at my
Yeah, I really just start laughing. I'm a merchant, good sir. Not some sort of cut purse or thug.
In
I
order
have
to
a
get
dagger, never had to use it.
In order to get your stuff back, you'll have to have more than just a sharp tongue and brash wit.
Well, that's what we have you for.
I am just here to work on the house.
Well, all things are negotiable.
If we have things to negotiate with.
Well, I perhaps could lend my aid from, well, some of my savings.
Your stuff is gone, my payment is forfeit, therefore my work is done for the day. If you wish, I can go with you. If I see this orc, I shall kill him. Who knows, if we get your stuff back, I might finish your house.
Well then, Reinnold, are you determined to get set out already?
What time
just
of
so you
day
know,
is it?
it's actually dusk at this point.
I intend to go in the morning, Father, unless you wish to usher me off quickly.
No, no. Let us try to get a decent night's sleep in this hellhole, half-finished house. Perhaps you can fix the door.
If you wish, you could sleep in the smithy. No more dirtier, I guess, there than it is here.
No, I'll be fine here, I think.
I myself, I have a good bath, sounds good. I shall return home, get a night's sleep, and perhaps come to see you in the morning.
He looks to Reinhold, letting him answer that question.
If you wish, as I said, if it is a burden to you, my good man, then do not bother, but I intend to set out on this journey regardless.
Stride up, just side glancing at, what's your guy's name, Ted?
Otto.
Just side glance at Otto and go up to Reinhold, slap a hand on his shoulder, big meaty paw, and just go, he says, don't fret, son, don't fret, sir, boy. He says, we'll get your stuff back. In the morning, we go on adventure. Smack you off and kind of half laugh and walk on off. Until tomorrow.
And I sort of get surprised when I get slapped around a bit. It's like, ooh, and then
He's a lean fella.
And then look at my father and just shake my head and walk into our house.
Massive eye roll from Otto as he departs.
So how fucked up is our house? For context, how bad is this place?
The roof is horribly leaky. The supports and all that are definitely weak. But it's livable for the moment.
So this obviously doesn't have a whole lot of
ruin.
Yeah, so this probably doesn't have a whole lot of pertinence. But if we have any pots and pans around, do people understand? No, people probably don't understand bacteria or germs or anything, so I wouldn't bother with that actually. Not. But water is water, so
no, don't drink water.
Fuck it.
That is one thing that they do know is water can be dangerous. I mean, people drink it from a fresh stream and or from a well and all that, but people tend to drink beer or ale.
Mm-hmm.
It's known, or wine if you can afford it. It's safer.
Oh, what have we got in the cabinets that we've got that isn't saved, isn't being hidden away by my greedy ass dad?
Like I would give it to you. Yeah, that's fine. Would I have like a bottle of wine, perhaps, laying around?
That's your call. If you have, you may still have just a few vestiges left over. You were pretty well stocked before you had to flee. You had some nice, expensive things.
Yeah, so that's fine.
they're running out.
Yeah.
You're nothing new coming in. So you've got you've got a couple weeks at least of things left that you can survive on before you have to start looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
And
So I
probably more wine than anything else.
okay, perfect. Otto waves to Reinhold. And he's like, "Sit down, boy. I know you've had a trying day." And he walks over to one of the cupboards and pulls it open and grabs out a bottle of wine that probably is not the best bottle, but it's probably one of the ones he hasn't drank because it's not his favorite or whatever.
Wine's wine.
Yeah, wine's wine, and then he kind of I don't know what would they be, corks, or would they be corks like a pop, like a champagne cork? Okay, so he draws off the cork and grabs two probably wouldn't be a glass, but 2 cups, and pours.
Yeah, you probably have some fine
Be like
silver.
a pewter goblet.
Yeah,
like a pewter goblet or something like that.
Yeah. So basically, he takes his sleeve and wipes out the inside of each goblet and pours a cup full and puts one in front of Reinhold. And he says, "Now this business that you want to get yourself into, we should discuss that. There's no reason for you to get involved in things that will cause you and I trouble. Drink up."
He would sit back. Which matter of business were you talking about, Father? The ransom or the fishermen that are selling their goods for too cheap?
The ransom. The fishermen, I do not care so much about that. That is business. What can we gain from this ransom?
The favor of a powerful individual, first and foremost, the wizard. I believe that he has quite a bit of clout. If he is indeed a man of such talents, then he may know associates, potential business partners. He may have access to materials we do not otherwise have access to, and possibly be willing to share them upon safe return of his apprentice. All manner of things, I'm imagining.
Do you reckon that these brigands could have been, well, untruthful?
It is possible, but we wouldn't know unless we pursued their demands. Also, as an addendum, they promised that I, and by extension I'm sure, if I saw them again, you would have safe passage along the road between here and Filton.
He kind of considers that, and he says, "Well, I suppose there's no harm in going that I can foresee. I will go with you, though. You're not much of a talker. I will do the talking."
You would speak to the wizard?
"If I must. I do not want you to, well, fail in another endeavor. So close to the last. It's bad for your self-esteem, your mother would say."
I am not sure she would consider it a failure. More like circumstances out of my control, but however you wish to judge it, Father, it's your prerogative.
"It is, and I am the head of this house. Now, let me see, did they give you a note to deliver to the wizard?"
Let's see.
No.
No, Father, simply a message.
"Very well, then we will take the blacksmith with us. He looks the sort of a thug. Hopefully he can forestall any foolish men on the road, and if so, then we will depart and let him do his job."
As you wish. There was something else you may wish to know about your shop.
"Oh?"
When I was there, one of your old rivals was having a chit-chat with the man you sold the shop to.
He kind of takes a large drink from the wine, and
Does Gary Kell sound familiar?
"Of course, do not be rash. I know who Gary Kell is. He is
Speaking of
probably...
Mr. Shep, I think
Yes.
there is something going on.
He is probably trying to buy it, if I had to guess. He had always wanted that place. Well, there's nothing for it now. Eventually we will return and we will have our shop back. And we will make that man suffer a great humiliation. But for now, we make do with this squalor.
Indeed.
And he drinks the last of his wine and he says, and he recorks the rest. And he says, I am going to turn in. It has been a busy day for me and probably you as well. Get some sleep.
As you wish. And then I'll sort of kick up. And if the table's like a bench style table where it's like benches you sit on, sleep on that tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, and I retire to wherever I sleep, if it's a bed or a cot.
Yeah, there are the old rotten remains of cots in there with like probably a couple decades old straw that was just sitting in it. So you've cleaned that out, and you can at least put fresh hay on there and make it sleepable. But it is nothing compared to the beds that you actually had.
Yeah.
You had only just bought actual beds for your home, like within the past 2 months before leaving. So you didn't even get to enjoy their finery for very long. And you even bought one for Reinnold, which is very unusual for a family, for a child to have.
It was actually for his guest room, it wasn't for me. I know how it is.
Well,
Yes.
you were allowed to stay there if he had no guests.
He lays down on the cot and kind of like closes his eyes and just like mouths a silent curse as he like tries to get comfortable.
All right. So when Wrecker left, is Wrecker eating on his own at home, or does he go to the tavern to eat? Do you imagine?
Seeing how he's new in town, he's a loner by nature, but at the same time, he's got to make an effort. Otherwise, he's not going to have any business. I'll probably go to like the common room, get a brew and a bowl of stew.
Okay. Gonna open up the tavern then.
Not looking for wenches, not looking for buddies to beg me to buy him a drink, and just get my food and my drink and sit in a corner and
Okay.
spoon it and watch the idiots.
Well, you can see the tavern up here. I have moved you up to that location. And it's still pretty early because it's only just now dusk, and most of the village is actually still working in the fields and all. But there is one person who you've seen here quite a few times, just sitting, having. He drinks, but he's eating right now.
So I've seen him before. Like how often?
He's here every time you've ever come here.
Oh, okay. So he's mentally he's a local. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody here. You're getting the impression everybody here is a local. You get no traffic through town. There's, you figured out there's a road heading south, but you have never once seen anybody head down that road.
Okay.
Not that you've been here that long, but in the time you've been here, you've never seen anybody leave town that way. In fact, you've never seen anybody leave town except for Reinnold heading off towards the north.
Huh. Okay. Sit
So-
there and take a healthy gulp from my. When I get there, like I'm assuming it's like a little baguette of stew, rip. And if that guy makes eye contact, I'm just give him the friendly head nod, like acknowledging that.
You're breaking up pretty bad now, Ian.
It's only on Discord though. Green again. But like I said, just sit there, drink my drink, rip off a piece of bread, dunk it in my stew, and he looks at me, give him the nod of acknowledgement. Just like fancy meeting you here again.
He does. He holds up his wooden stein and kind of does the typical toast kind of thing, but he kind of smiles, but it's kind of a sad smile. And you've seen enough drunk people in your life to see that he is drunk right now. And you've seen him in this state every time you've been here, and he's a quiet drunk.
I can respect that. Smirk, let a smile slowly creep across my face. Lean my head down and lay it back up at him, smile a little bit wider, and then hold my mug up to him and return the salute.
He says, "I didn't see you much around here."
So I'm just gonna roll my eyes like, oh shit. Just kind of shake my head and just nod again, try to play it off, continue eating.
You see, he's kind of squinting, like he's trying to really stare hard at you, like he's trying to see if maybe he knows you. But you can see he's having no luck. There are no bells going off in his head.
Oh, that's the guy at the bar right here? That guy just popped up.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking about this guy over here.
Oh, no.
And I'm not currently seated, or am I seated?
You can be.
Okay, assuming I'll be next to him. We'll
Yeah,
do it like
the woman serving you, the way is her husband in the back there cooks at that back fireplace back there. He makes all the meals. She does all the serving. Although there is a younger girl that sometimes is here, a rather attractive country lass, but she's not here tonight.
Okay, so assuming this guy's sitting next to me, and what we just did was basically I just sat next to this guy, gave him a friendly nod, returned a salute, and then said, oh shit, he's talking to me. He starts slurring and squinting. I'm just gonna begrudgingly stop what I'm eating and look over at him and just take my bowl and my bread, like half of it left, and just slide it over to him. Put this in your belly instead of that. You'll need it for the walk home.
He says, I don't walk home, but thanks. And he takes the food and he eats. And he lifts his stein again to you.
Don't return it, just nod. Then turn to the lady serving and put my tankard down. Boom! Slide it forward. Another, please.
She serves you. Have you spoken to her much in the past, or are you quiet?
It's all business.
Yeah.
Unless they're prying for information, I'll tell them
She doesn't pry. You have noticed her giving you very curious looks, but she's not being super obvious or offensive about it. You just can tell she's very curious about you. But she's an old woman, and she doesn't. You get the sense that you see some intelligence behind her eyes, and she just doesn't say anything other than just business.
Okay, well, I'm not really going for open conversation, so unless she's like just staring at me like,
No,
I'm not.
she doesn't do that. No, she busies herself with other things, with preparations. They get a few regular people in here at night. Food. It's almost supper time. You would have kind of figured out the routine. You know, if you want to eat unmolested, this is the best time because they have the food pretty much ready. And if you're kind of quick, you can get out of here before the farmers come in. Or you can stay if you want.
I will slow down my second mug of mead and just keep an eye on the guy, make sure he's actually eating and trying to finish the bowl.
Yeah, he doesn't stop his drinking, but you know he's eating a good amount of it.
Okay, well, politely finish up my drink and stand and slide the remainder of my tab over to the woman and look at her and he goes, "The food was good. I thank you." I'll stop and look at the guy and I said, "He'll be okay."
She says he'll be just fine. We'll take good care of our Karsten.
Very well then. Have a good night.
And she just kind of nods.
Walk on.
All right. Your home is over to the left there, in case you don't remember from the guide. This is the blacksmith's over to the west. If I pull you across here, you can see this is your home.
So the other blacksmiths and the guides are gone then, I assume.
Yes, well,
Okay.
you don't. You actually probably never even heard about them, as it turns out.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious.
You will eventually, but yeah.
Definitely kick open the door once I get it shut, make sure everything looks all right. Then once it looks okay, I'll let out a huge burp and a fart, and scratch myself, and start stripping down to take my little wash tub bath.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Dunk the bucket of water on my head, shake my mana hair, dry off.
All right.
Check the fire, make sure there's good embers going in case I need to use it on the forge. And pretty much retired for the evening. It's all good.
Okay. Sounds like everybody is kind of nodding off. A little early. So you might Otto, you might already be asleep. But it's getting dark, and you guys hear a kind of a commotion out in the center of town.
Well, I am a curious fellow, so I would probably get up and peek out the door and see if I can sort of see anything going on.
Yep.
I'm curious but cautious. I'll jump up and grab my stuff, make sure I'm clothed and got my apron on, and grab my hammer. Then I'll slowly open the door, start making my way out and investigate.
Okay.
Yeah. When I assume I can wake up and all that jazz. And
you can.
Yeah. What are you doing, Reinnold? What's all this commotion?
I don't know. I'm going to see.
Is that necessary? Just come back here.
I think it's important that we know the events that transpire in our new home, Father. Can't turn a blind eye just because they're ragged, rough peasants. That's what we are now.
Pah! Don't ever call yourself a peasant. And he kind of steps out the door and kind of peeks out.
You hear a commotion. You can hear a bunch of people sort of in the center of the village.
I guess he
If none of-
begrudgingly goes forward.
If none of them look particularly threatening, then I guess I'll.
It looks like they're all gathered. It doesn't look like there's chaos. It looks like the commotion is like a hubbub of excitement and concern and perhaps a little confusion.
Does this guy look like he's a guard or an official?
He is, yeah, he's dressed in, let's see, I can actually show you. He is dressed in, yeah, they're like, he's dressed like that.
Okay, so he's obviously militia of some kind.
He's got a spear in his hand. He's just kind of standing and a torch in the other.
Out of spear range, but within acknowledgement range.
And you can see over here, this man in robes and this other guy with a spear are dragging. They've got this guy by each arm, and they're sort of pulling him out here. And some of the villagers are piling up wood here in the center.
And I would just ask the nearest man to me, pardon, what is the meaning of this? What's going on here tonight?
Someone's saying something about catching a witch.
A witch? Who's a witch?
I guess that one there. And he points over to your old friend Foster. And you can hear him protesting in some some odd language.
I would sort of make my way forward, I guess.
Otto would be like, "What are you doing?"
I'm just ignoring Dad, as I usually do.
He would like grab you by the shoulder, probably.
Okay, yeah, you haven't even gotten that far when he would grab you by the shoulder. Then you're probably still back here.
Yeah, he kind of jerks on your shoulder fairly hard to kind of spin you around if he can. And he like looks down at you, or however tall we are, looks at you in the face and says, "What are you trying to do?"
I've met this man on the road.
And? What is it to you?
Sure I got back safely.
Oh, so where is the cart then?
It was after the cart, Father. Though I suppose me getting waylaid all alone by bandits would be of little to no loss of you.
You can see that they are binding him to a pole in the middle of this wood. And you can see this woman standing nearby with a satisfied look on her face and her arms folded. And this well-dressed young man, who looks kind of a little nervous, a little unsure of himself, he's sort of tentatively directing what's going on, but you can see very clearly it's the man in robes here that is really in charge of this enterprise.
I would shake myself loose of my father if I can, since I know he is a squirrely man.
Yeah, he just looks at you in dismay and doesn't attempt to hold you back any further.
I'm going to roll perception while they're talking to see if I heard them say anything about. Never mind.
I think your attention. There's a lot of hubbub here, and they're sort of on the edge of the torchlight, so you probably barely even noticed they were there yet.
What? Okay.
Now you would definitely see Reinnold kind of heading closer in.
I was essentially trying to see if I heard him mention that he said that he was on the road with someone, because if I heard him say that, I was going to
No.
go up to him and try to...
You did not.
Now, are any of these men speaking to the crowd at all or anything, or am I able to approach here?
Not really. So your quick assessment of this guy,
Mhm.
and to a lesser extent this guy here, this is one of the only people of the villagers you really have sort of met. He's the village headman. He's the one that basically told you that you could temporarily set up home in the old logger's house until his lordship decided, if that was to formalize the relationship or not. So you kind of know he's in charge of the village, of the villagers. You've never seen him before.
I would talk to the man that I know, I assume, instead, because I have familiarity. So I'd probably approach him and...
Okay.
Good village headsman, what is the meaning of this at this ungodly hour? Why is this man being put on a pyre?
The priest says he's a witch.
You have proof of this? I'm gonna interrupt.
He says, priest says he's a witch.
By what charge?
I don't know all the details yet. They just pulled him out here.
Well, then this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
We were told to prepare a pyre for him.
So I would... This probably isn't the best thing to do to the newest people of the village, but
Never listening to Dad.
I would yell over, by what charge is this man being put on a pyre?
The crowd actually kind of quiets down a bit, and all eyes are suddenly on you. And the young guy here looks at you right next to him, and he says, "This man is charged with witchcraft and must be purged of his sins."
By whose account is he charged with witchcraft, and what precisely dictates his witchcraft?
And this fellow with the robes doesn't exactly push the boy out of his way. It's done with just enough deference to not be rude. And he says, "It is my assessment." And who are you, may I ask?
My name is Reinnold. I ask because I travel with this man on the road. You say he is a witch. I simply wanted clarification as to why you reached that assessment, my good sir.
Good sir. Holy Father would be a more appropriate addressing, don't you think?
My apologies then, Holy Father. I simply asked for clarification.
Riker's gonna murmur under his tongue, try to direct it towards Reinhold. Best you stay your tongue, boy.
He says, "You're one of the new people in town, aren't you? I saw you at the service this past Sunday."
That's correct. Myself and my father. I would obviously gesture towards my dad to make him uncomfortable.
He walks in, he nods, and he's like, "Of course, excuse my son. He has been through a lot the last day, waylaid by bandits, in fact."
Nevertheless, I am still curious, my holiest of fathers, why you would reach such an assessment on this man.
Foster calls out to you and says, "Reinnold, tell them I am not of who they say." And he says, "You know this man."
I suspect you've seen him as well. You allowed him to walk into your holiest of churches.
I did, and had discourse with him. I've not yet had that pleasure. Perhaps we shall have a discussion as well. I would like to get to know you better.
I would like that as well, but you had yet to answer my question, unless you do not intend to, my holiest of fathers.
I'm not used to being questioned by my lesser.
And that kind of gets Otto's goat. And he kind of looks and he's like, "Excuse me, Holy Father, but we are new here, but, well, this is a simple place. Should not this man be given a trial by your peers?"
I have given him a trial myself. I heard his words and judged them accordingly. I am so empowered.
You chose not to involve any other defense of his character by others that may know him here.
I did not know others knew him here. That was news to me. Now I see he has associates.
If you would be willing, I would be more than happy to testify to the defense of this man's character, and then I would, before he says anything, start to go on about how this gentleman offered to help me along the road and walk openly to the crowd more so than to him, and just go into a sort of a spiel. This man, this declared witch, offered to help a vagabond such as myself, waylaid, be taken of all my goods. He spoke kindly to men of the very church that intend to burn him now in front of all of you, and yet we have what accusations that he is a witch? Does that sound like a witch's behavior? Witches manipulate and abuse and contort. I saw nothing in my short time spent with this man that would suggest he is a witch, but I would defer to whoever intends to assault his character if they would so step forward to do so.
I will allow you an intelligence roll with 1 bane. So you, when prompted, put a -1 in there.
All right.
You're not really predisposed to giving you much credit. Yeah, not so much. Actually, when you're done speaking, Foster starts going on and saying, my friend speaks true, and he says, I was sent here by the fairy to save you all from certain doom. The end is coming for all of you. I am your savior.
Otto just, like, puts his head in his hand and just, like, shakes his head.
He, the priest just kind of smirks, and this woman over here, points at him in almost a hysterical voice, says, he's just confessed his consorting with the fairies, with the demons. And
I would just shake my head and look at my father like, man, we are with some fucking simple folk now. And then say,
the priest says, you have anything to say further in his defense?
no, I think not. Though I heard no mention of demons, madam, I look around and I see that this town has a certain way of doing things, and I am simply not yet accustomed to such an approach. It would be far beyond me and my father or anyone else to suggest that you are doing things incorrectly, holiest of fathers. And I would bow respectfully and walk back over to my father, and I would leave them to their burning. I have no wish to see it.
All right. There's some excitement among the people as they start up the fire, but you're not exactly sure everyone is.
Yeah, Otto doesn't leave. He tries to take, like, take note of people's demeanor as best he can.
Yes. Okay. I'll allow you a perception check then.
Okay.
I will step forward and just stand there as if waiting.
No bane or
Okay.
boon or anything like that.
No, just straight
Okay.
up. Good. Aha. Okay. Well, obviously, this woman is very pleased that this is all happening.
Mm-hmm.
This guy here, your sense of him is he's just resigned to it. He seems neither excited about it or particularly horrified or upset by it.
Who? Which one was that? Sorry.
That's the headman.
Okay.
The people back here, the couple that run the inn, the tavern, they're also just kind of quiet. They don't really say anything or this group of people right here seem enthusiastic about it. The people in the center.
Okay.
They're sort of cheering it on. The guards don't seem to care one way or the other. They just seem to be about their duties. And you see way back in the corner here, there's this one woman who's just watching from the edge of the torchlight, if you can see her.
Okay. Let me scroll over
Just
there.
barely. You see
Okay.
that? You see just sort of a shadowy figure back there, like she doesn't want to be seen.
Okay.
And then they start the pyre, and as the flames start rising up, Foster has some last words. I'm sure I can't do it justice, but I'll try. Unguided kin, wherefore seize me thus? For on your behalf my sending come. Grim be thy futures, for great evil finds its home among you. The fairy kin have seen it, and greatly wrestle they with a course to take upon this matter. With saving grace came I upon your lands, with light and courage drawn from out this place to waterlands in need of sweet refreshment. Friends, I beg you, carry not this unguided act to its grisly conclusion. The land cries out, oh ye gods, the fires leap upon my sinews and fry me where I stand. And see in heavens a pure and guided sun. And the flames engulf him.
And Otto kind of just shakes his head and says, "Well, wasn't that a beauty? So exciting." And he kind of murmurs to himself something about bumpkins and turns away.
And what does Wrecker do?
Well, he's standing there like he was waiting. When it's actually gonna burn him, I'll just shake my head, look down to the ground as if he's seen way too much death already. Slowly just returning back to his place.
All right. And Otto retires as well.
Yeah, he's gonna go back.
All right. Let's take a quick bio break then, and we'll continue. I'm an old man. I need a little.
It's all good.
I was gonna protest, but I remember we've actually been here for about a month, I think he said.
Yeah.
I was gonna stand and wait in line, and when they asked what I was doing, I said, I'm waiting for my turn. It seems that your village burns all newcomers. I might as well be next. I think I know what's causing it, because these must have dynamic lighting on. I'm seeing like a vague flickering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the fire, I think, right?
Yeah, he's good with the dynamic lighting.
Where's my house? It's too dark. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna have something to say about that.
Don't think I'll go to church this Sunday.
No, you bet. Well, shit, that should reinforce your desire to go to church. If you're not at church, where else could you be but practicing witchcraft? I mean, better be at church this Sunday, motherfucker.
Yes, exactly. Now you're getting it. It was a lesson learned.
Come witness the violence inherited in the system.
I'm just gonna sit at the table in the house and have a glass of wine in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I would join you.
Just make sure my doors are locked and windows are barred.
Yes.
Just strobe like it was a complete waste of time and regret my decision for coming to this village.
I think, Wrecker, you've probably been familiar with this sort of thing before.
Yeah. That's, like I said, originally, if they were going to acknowledge me, then I remembered we were actually supposed to have been here for about a month now. I thought we were newer than that.
You actually, the other two have been here about 2 weeks, and I would say maybe you've been here just a shy more than that, maybe less 3 weeks.
I was gonna, like I told them, I was just gonna, I said, if we were brand new, I was just gonna stand in line and wait my turn. And apparently, your village burns all newcomers.
Yeah, so is I guess so the new god, right, has control of all these areas then, and the old gods are like in hiding sort of thing, or?
Well, it's not that straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
The Northern Reach, which is the most recent province added to the empire only about 100 years ago, had been devoted to the old gods. I mean, had really very little interest in God. They just call it God. It's the old god worshippers that call it the new god. It's either just called God or the true God, some people say. So since the empire came, that faith has grown. But in general, it had been, most places were tolerant of the old gods because that's the majority of the population.
Mm-hmm.
But this village seems different.
Yeah.
It's not what you probably expected.
Yeah.
Filton is not. I mean, there is a church to the new god in Filton. It's actually just the converted granary became a church because they've not built an actual church yet. And it has its popularity in town, but there isn't really the repression there that you just saw.
Right. So I guess as Otto comes in, what state does he see Reinnold in?
I'm just sitting there looking pretty solemn, drinking my wine.
He walks over and kind of slightly uncharacteristically puts a hand on your shoulder and says, "We must beware of these bumpkins, Reinnold. They are extremists, and we are newcomers. I do not wish to see you on a pyre."
I don't wish to see anyone on a pyre, Father.
Nor do I.
One day this ugly place we live in changes.
Well, perhaps we can do that in time, but for now, we must be wary.
Yes, I suppose you're right.
But I have no love for these fools.
And with that, there is a knock on your door.
God. And he nods to Reinnold and he's like, yes, it's already started, perhaps.
I'll take it, Father. I'm sure it's for me. Put the cup down and get up.
And he just kind of stands there.
Open the door.
Okay. It is the village headman. He says, I am very sorry to disturb you at this late hour.
We were already disturbed. It's of no bother. Good sir, good headsman, what can we do for you this evening? Well, night.
He just kind of nods quietly, and he said, I have been asked to pass on to you that his lordship wishes to meet with you and your father in the morning, that may have formal meeting with you finally.
Very well. We will, of course, accept his lordship's invitation. Thank you for bringing the word.
He nods. He says, I will come to fetch you when the time has come.
I nod and wish him a good night unless he has anything else he wants to add.
No, he just tips his hat and goes.
Make sure you wear
I'm guessing
your...
I've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
shoulder.
it was right there.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to wear your best, Father. We have to make a good first impression, don't we?
Well, even these terrible garb that we have here is better than these bumpkins. And we won't smell like charred flesh at that. And he kind of grimaces and says, perhaps we can talk to this lord and enact some change around here. This kind of thing is not good for business.
I think I agree with your earlier assessment. We should probably wait a moment. Well, a moment being quite more than a moment. We should establish residency first, unless that's changed since I've been gone.
Well, I think it will be decided tomorrow. We cannot go back to Filton. That is impossible. So I suppose we must bow and scrape to our lessers. And he definitely has quite a bit of disdain on his face. His teeth kind of show, and he has kind of a sneer on his face. And then, well, good Reinnold, we shall have the advantage one day soon. Do not worry, my son.
And I would sort of breathe deep and smile a bit and say, get some rest, Father. You have to make some small steps tomorrow before you enact any big plans. Sorry to wake you in the night.
Well, I don't know how much I'll be sleeping after that. And he just kind of continues drinking until he's drunk enough to fall asleep.
Good night, Father. Sleep
right.
well.
Good night.
You also get a knock on your door, Wrecker. You have probably just gotten back into bed.
Get up wearing my long john, like calf-length long john bottoms.
Yeah.
Grab my hammer, sling the door up, slam it open, and just stare. Won't say a word.
It's the village headman, Broderick.
Still don't say a word.
I would say you probably learned his name and remember that I would guess that Otto doesn't give a crap what Broderick's name is. That's just a guess.
Probably not.
And he says, "I'm again sorry to wake you, but his lordship has requested your presence at his home tomorrow to have a meeting with you. Is that all right?"
What is it about?
I believe he wishes to discuss the terms of your permanent residency here.
I'm supposed to have business in the morning. What time should it be?
I shall come to fetch you. I imagine rise early, but who knows these days his health has not been good.
Just look and roll his eyes, and if it must be, it must be.
It must.
Very well then. Anything else?
No. I wish you a good night. And he starts to tip his hat to you and then doesn't.
I'll wait, spun around, and he walks, and I'll just. Good night to you. Till tomorrow. Not slam the door, but shut it, basically. Just like, now, can I go to bed?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
I go knock at Wrecker's door.
Yeah.
I knock back with my hammer in your head.
Crazy people, am I right? Yeah. All right. Okay. So, a night passes, but not well for you, Otto. You actually you have a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
The burning fires and the screams of that fellow invade your sleep, and I actually there's a link to the dream. You can all watch it. It's not that private.
So I assume since we all know he just tells us about it tomorrow morning, like, yeah, man, I had this horrible nightmare.
I doubt it, but
Oh God, this is not looking good already. What the fuck, Dad? What the fuck?
I didn't click anything. Just assuming I didn't see any.
Yeah, there's I put a link in the chat.
So
it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying it was just him that had the nightmare, right? So I got no reason to click it.
You don't really know. Yeah, you don't really know it.
Yeah, so Otto wakes up and in a cold sweat and screams out like bloody murder, right? And
I would obviously bust in at that, probably.
and he's like panting and
Otto, you may make a willpower check with one boon.
Okay, one boon. So just put a 1 in there.
Yeah. The modifier. Oh, actually, okay. So you're upset by it, but it's not going to have a lasting.
Okay. And he's just like looks up at you and this Another nightmare.
I look around the room and look back at him. All right, Father.
This is just seeing that man burn today. It was, yes, never mind. Just go back to sleep.
And I would nod and just thinking maybe he's had a bit too much to drink. Just close the door and
He has waken up screaming a couple of times since you've moved here.
I'm suspicious, but concerned probably is a better word.
All right, the night passes. And
Yay, sleep.
yay.
I'll wake
Shoot.
up in a cold sweat screaming too.
Probably not.
Marshmallows.
I would be putting on my equivalent of my Sunday's best for this little get together.
Yeah. Otto does as well. He trims his beard and his mustache and his nose hair and walks out and looks at Reinnold and, well, today is the day, it looks like.
And Reinhold's sort of slacking on putting on his pants and walking around half naked in the house, getting a nice little sip of wine before he puts his pants on.
Being a Northman equivalent and a blacksmith by trade, and this is not church or a funeral or a dress ball or anything, I'll just do the typical wake up in the wash basin, blow the nose out, then splash the water on my face, get my hair all good and greasy wet, and shake it about a bit, let it dry out by the fire of the forge, then put on just my plain cotton overshirt, my leather breeches, boots, and everything but the apron and hammer.
All right.
So,
And then you wait a little bit. You wait longer than you had hoped to, and Wolf. Becker, you're ready to go, and you have to just sit around. But eventually, Broderick comes to Otto and Reinnold's place and knocks.
I would open the door with pants on, obviously, and
How very civilized of you.
yes.
He said his lordship is ready for you. I've been sent to fetch you.
I would sort of look at my father, figuring he wants to lead the way as the family patriarch.
And he nods and he's like, very well, we'll come. And he kind of steps out the door behind him.
He just leads you through the village and up to the blacksmith's, where he knocks on his door.
Okay, having gotten ready and waiting and realizing he's way early, he'll suddenly remember a couple projects that he's been working on. He'll go into the forge and start just minor stuff, but still enough to break a decent sweat. He'll basically like hammer out some nails that he's been working on for Otto's place, little tiny stuff. Working on nails and like get about a dozen of those up, move them to the side by the time he hears the knock.
Okay.
Realize he's dirty and a little bit sooty. Oh well, he rubs his hands on the thighs, goes to the door and unlatches it and opens it.
He says, his lordship is ready for you. I've been sent to take you.
Very well, let's get this over with.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would, being kind of suspicious, I already typed it in there, but I would look at the fact that the headmaster is going to the blacksmith's house and our house, and we had just had a discussion yesterday about all going out this morning together, and now we're all being pulled into the Lord's chambers. It's probably coincidence, but I'm looking at the village headman and looking at my father, kind of like, squint-eyed, like, huh? Like, kind of weird. But
yeah, he doesn't really acknowledge that so much. This is a meeting that he has been expecting for a while.
Just unemotionally go through the motions. Just like the quicker we get this shit over with, the better.
All right, he's leading you up to the manor house. All right, we'll drag you up, Wrecker. And up the steps, and there's one of the young guards waiting there, and he opens the gate, and without a word, he just kind of leads the way in. They all go in, and he goes to this door over here and knocks quietly on the door, and the door opens partially, and hear him say, "They're here, my lord," and he just goes and takes up a station there, and he kind of steps up. Broderick kind of just steps off to the side there. Clearly sort of making way for you to be out in front.
I'm just gonna go in between the two of y'all as briskly as possible. I want to be the first one there.
Meet him at the door.
The guard says his lordship will join you and motions you back. He looks at you like you're impertinent. And then kind of comes back.
Wrecker really wanted that meeting. He's like, "Hey, come on."
Yeah.
I gotta get a nap in. Last night was a rough one.
Broderick just kind of classes.
Stop, catch myself. Internally, I'm embarrassed, but oh well, screw it. They're not gonna see that. And just step back and then go fine, and then cross my arms in front of my chest and wait.
Yeah. After a couple minutes, it's longer than you want it to be again. You're getting tired of this waiting shit. The door opens and these three come out. This old man, reasonably well dressed, clearly better than anybody else in the village, is being led out by two people you saw the previous night, the priest and the other well-dressed younger man, and they're each kind of supporting the Lord by an arm to help him walk. He looks like he's having a little trouble walking.
Uncross my arms, let him fall, and I'm resisting the urge to go forth and actually help the old man myself.
Okay. They lead him around the table and help him into the center seat, and then they take a seat. And you can see that the priest has some parchment and ink kind of positioned in front of him on the table. And the old man kind of gives you a hard look over the three of you.
As soon as they seat, I'll look left, look right before crossing, and step forward.
Okay.
Then recross my arms in front, stand there like at attention.
He says, "So you are the three who have come to request residence in my manor. Introduce yourselves."
Otto lets Riker go first since he's out front.
He'll look back because he would extend the same courtesy to you. But upon seeing you look at him, he'll just look back. "I am Rickard Rickerson. I am supposed to be the town's new blacksmith. What would you know of me?"
You say you are a blacksmith.
I, born and bred.
He nods. We're in need of a blacksmith. So I suppose God has sent you.
It seems thus.
By the look of you, you come from wild lands.
From the lands of the south and other places.
The lands to the south are civilized, not like this place here. But you look strong enough, and you say you have the craft. So, very well. And you, he looks at Otto.
Yes, I am Otto Leitdorf, formerly of Filton, a merchant and trader by...
You see his lips purse just a little when you say Filton.
And he says, I have come here to bring my wares for trade. This place looks like it could use some trade.
Does it now? We do quite fine here by ourselves. We have the occasional peddler who brings us what we need, but we are quite self-sufficient.
Of course, but a peddler, their prices are outrageous. Anyone that puts the shop here, well, they can sell you anything at a lower price and for more quantity of goods.
Lower prices, you say?
Of course, selling in bulk, my lord.
I don't think we have any need of bulk here, but I like the sound of lower prices.
Of course.
And who is this young whip over here?
This is my son, Reinnold. He works for me in my shop.
And why have you come here?
Well, I had some misfortune. My wife, God bless her soul, departed this world, and I decided I needed a different start. And here I am.
A different start. You choose a curious place for a different start, but who am I to question?
It has its charms.
Man from the south, why do you come here?
I go where the winds take me. I no longer live amongst my people. I have traveled, fought in many wars. I wish to do no more fighting.
No use of fighting men here. Have the winds stopped blowing for you, or are they blow you away next month?
For now, my sails have hung low. I am ready to set up residence once again.
As it be. If you're all seeking residence, there are a few things you must be made of. I don't tolerate certain things here. As long as you live according to my rules, you'll do just fine. If you
Tell me what they are.
I'm getting to that. First and foremost, I hope you're all aware that I don't tolerate worshippers of demons, old gods, or other pagan beliefs. We're all worshippers of the true God here. If you can't stomach that, then you'd best move on. Second, there will be no fornication. None. It's a gross, disgusting sin. Shows weakness of the soul and of the body. If you stop yourself, marry someone like an honest man.
You're cutting out just a little bit, and I don't want to miss this.
He says, if you cannot control yourself.
Yeah, still cutting out.
Still?
Yep.
Let me try going out and coming back in.
Yep.
Sound like Senator Palpatine mixed with an Autobot.
All right. I'll try again.
That sounds better.
If you must indulge in your fleshly desires, be an honest man and marry a woman. As long as you provide me with an appropriate gift, I shall not refuse. And of course, if my father agrees, everything done properly here. And finally, there's the matter of the feudal arrangement with me, of course. You, blacksmith, I'll expect service from you 5 days out of the month. And of course, for the church, 1 day out of the month.
Yeah, I'm missing it. It's breaking up.
Yeah.
Maybe
funeral arrangements and
Can you
blacksmith.
hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Is this fine? Okay. Maybe it just doesn't like that voice. So he lays out that your arrangement is 5 days of service to him a month on whatever work he requires of you, and 1 day of service to the church a month. That is your service requirement. As to fees, it is 10% of anything that you produce goes to his lordship, and 10% to the church.
Now, does he say specifically produce?
Everything traded in kind or earned in coin, he expects 10%. And the church as well. He says, I think you find my terms to be very generous compared to life in the city. He says to Otto. He says, your terms would be very similar.
Of course.
He says, you don't look like the kind of man that wants to do physical labor. So you must provide 5 days equivalents in goods or coin, and 1 to the church on top of the 10% to myself and the church.
I would step forward and say, my good lord, my father is definitely not one for physical labor, but I am. Might I propose I take up my father's share of duties as well as my own, and provide 10 days to your lordship and 2 days to the church?
He shrugs and says, that pleases you. It's all the same to me.
I would nod and step back.
Yes, that works for me. Thank you, my lord.
In exchange, of course, I shall provide protection for you in the village. And should the need arise, I shall advise you and give you any other sort of assistance you might need. He doesn't seem pleased with that part. That is traditional. And he says, will there be anything else, or have we reached an agreement?
Listen carefully, then when the time comes to speak, right, Gorgo. Your terms seem reasonable. I agree and look forward to working with you. We have a deal then. Spit in my palm automatically. And reach out, then suddenly realize, what the hell am I doing? You know?
Yeah, he looks.
It's so common.
He looks at your hand with distaste.
And I just kind of look and shake my head at myself, and then just lightly wipe my palm on the front of my breeches. Go back to folding my hands and just,
He says the priest here has written a feudal agreement already for you. You just have to make your mark, he says to the man from the south. Or if you know how to write, you can even sign your name. If you're fancy. He kind of looks pointedly at Otto.
Sign it with a chisel.
Yeah, Otto would, of course, my lord, if I may, and he, extends his hand because he wants to read it. As a merchant,
Yes.
he is not going
The-
to sign something that he doesn't know what it
Yeah.
says.
The priest hands it over. It's a fairly simple, drawn up agreement. It restates what he said. There's no long legalese or anything like that. This is a very simple.
Father, check the fine print at the bottom.
It's either extremely fine or there is none. You can't see any.
Roll perception, Father. You have to find the fine print. There's always fine print.
Also agree that they can whatever experiments they wish on your body, and there's nothing there.
Actually read and write.
I'm assuming record does not read. Correct?
Being a blacksmith, he really wouldn't.
Yeah.
You'd be able to probably see visual schematics and understand those, maybe minor numbers.
Yeah.
But
Even most of the nobility don't bother to read. They don't.
And he'll leave his appropriate family's name, set of runes or whatever.
Yeah. So the priest points out where you're supposed to make your mark, and he looks at those you make very curiously, and kind of looks at you with something of a raised eyebrow after seeing your mark, but files it away, as it were. And Reinnold, I assume you have finished reading it over.
Oh, I didn't even know I had to sign. I figured my father would just sign.
As Otto's son, you are written into your father's agreement.
Mm-hmm.
You're considered an adult male, and you'll be, you have the same requirements as he does.
All sins of the father, sins of the son, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm. I'll sign it, I guess, as well if I'm required to.
You're not yet. Otto's signature is all that's required at the moment.
Sign our lives away, Dad. Let's do it.
He does.
All right. The priest looks at it and looks at you also. Not surprised that you can write. You're not sure if it's impressed or whatever it is, but he does look at you curiously a little bit too. And then his lordship just kind of waves his hand in dismissal like he's done, and looks at his son, who had not said a single word this whole time, but rises now dutifully to help his father up.
You're breaking up real bad, Darren.
Oh, all right, sorry. The son rises to help his father up, and he and the priest take him back into his chambers. And Broderick takes you out. Broderick heaves a sigh of relief when you get outside, and he kind of nods at all of you, and he says, "Well, that was pretty well done." He said, "I've already discussed," and you saw in the terms agreement, at least Otto, you saw that residence in the loggers is part of this arrangement. That's kind of in return for what you owe him. You have that residence that's now considered yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Otto would look at the headman and is like, "Well, thank you for letting us stay here until we had met with the Lord."
He said, "It is no problem, and in truth, we can use your presence here, I think.
Yes, last night's display was interesting, and he's kind of trying to gauge the headman's opinion on it, seeing if he can get anything out of him.
He says, I think you'll find that the people here are fair as long as you are contributing to the livelihood of the village and to obey his lordship's commands.
Yes, fair.
Speaking of last night's display, is there like a burnt corpse in the middle of town?
Oh yeah. They left it there as a nice reminder to everyone of what happens to witches.
Go over and stand by it for a little bit, silently saying a prayer to the powers that be of the old gods, and even one to the fairy folk. If he was truly your messenger, know that we had naught to do with his death, and may there be another savior. Kind of like a silent, unrequited reverence.
That could be in your original tongue. Your Viking, your Jarl tongue, if you want. That would probably be natural. Broderick has no idea what you're saying.
Do we want to all try to drop out of Discord and then rejoin? Because
I'm gonna try that.
Because Darren, you're breaking up really bad lately.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So let's just all try to disconnect and reconnect and see if that helps.
Okay.
So, good so far. I mean, who knows, right? But
We'll see.
I'm getting all green. It all seems good, but all right.
It's weird.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, if you mutter those things, which I said, I presume in your Jarl tongue, which would be your natural go-to for such things, I would assume. And Broderick just kind of wishes you a good day, and gives you one more welcome. And he says, now I've got duties we have to organize for the day in the fields. And tips his hat to Otto and goes.
Well, Father, seeing as I'm going to take up your fair share of the work, I expect there's no qualm about me going to see this supposed wizard.
no, I think I'll definitely go with you after the display of this nonsense here. Don't much feel like being sitting here by myself.
Time away from this place would do us all good, I think.
Well then, I suppose that's what we should do.
Yes. And he just kind of looks at the burnt corpse and shakes his head again.
How far away is this place?
A decent ways to the south, but will we arrive there before evening?
Oh yeah. What you have heard you can't do the whole trip there and back in a day, but you almost could. If you really pushed it, you could do it in one day there and back.
Do we know if there's a place to stay when we get there, or?
He probably won't. It's a tower, right? I think it's a tower, so he's probably just there with. I don't think he expects guests at his tower regularly at all, if at all. So this is just delivering a message and going home. So I think maybe, I don't know, if we even have bedrolls, I guess we'd bring those, but really...
You would have something amounting to a bedroll.
It looks like we're going to sleep under the stars tonight. Is that so, Reinnold?
Yes, Father, I would imagine that is the case.
He just kind of like sighs and he's like, well, it can't be much worse when you have a gaping hole in your roof. I guess we'll wait for Wolf to get back.
I'm cool. I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Good. All right. Is there anything special you're taking other than some sort of roll as such to sleep on? Probably more like a blanket.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really be
Food.
traveling in the. Yeah.
Food,
Actually,
blanket,
apples,
my
cheese,
knife.
dried fish. Put that all in a little hobo bundle.
Yep. All right.
Definitely my hammer, my dagger, good walking staff if we have one. I think I
Oh yeah, that should be easy enough.
My dagger and maybe one of my smaller books for when we're at camp.
Okay.
need to buy a dog. That's gonna be my first thing.
Dagger, that's it.
Good call. But
Get the butler to keep people from waking you up in the middle of the night.
yeah, he can answer the door. We'll bring one in we'll bring one in from Filton.
Yeah, a butler in the village here. That would be.
Do you have an appointment, sir? Tie him to a fucking post and burn him. Just doing my job.
No, I think that's it.
Okay, then you head out. I'm going to assume that you have asked for directions there since you've never been there.
Yeah.
Who would you ask?
Probably the headman. I don't think I'm familiar with anyone else, so.
Okay. He would look at you curiously and maybe even a little concerned and say, why do you want to go there?
I was asked to deliver a message.
He kind of blinks and says, and then shrugs and says, well, it's easy enough to see. So if you just follow the road south about half a day's walk, you can see the tower from the road.
I would nod and pat him on the shoulder. Thank you, good man.
He says, good luck. Hope to see you again.
I imagine you will. I would gather
And he
my
says,
father.
God go with you.
I would just nod politely.
Already crunching on an apple when he mentions hopefully we'll see you again. I just pat him on the back and I go, we'll be back before you know it.
All right then, heading south. You can see on the map, it's not too far. If the road sort of heads east for a ways, kind of following the edge of the deeper forest to the west and south, and then kind of takes a turn to the southeast. And once you arrive here, which is really about a half day's walk, you can see barely through some light forest. You can see the tower kind of sticking up over the trees. It looks to be, you're guessing, it must be at least 5 or 6, maybe even more stories high. And it has a it has like a crenellated flat top, like a defensive flat top, not the conical top like you see in the image here. It's not exactly representative of it.
So people could be on top of it, right?
It could, yes.
Otto probably is, after a while, complaining about his feet. And just being just a general pain in the ass. And when they finally see it, he's like, "Ah, finally! My feet, they are on fire. This is why a man rides, not walks."
Well, Father, don't be too comfortable. We've still got a ways to walk before we get to the door.
Yes. Maybe that Shadowshade is looking better all the time. And he kind of thinks about it, and he's like, or maybe not.
I'm enjoying myself out in the wilds. When he starts complaining, I'll just walk on through, press ahead, and laugh, and ha! Your father, he whines like a woman.
Just
And I would smirk at that and side-eye my dad.
He just frowns, and he doesn't really say anything.
Closer, and I go, if this man, he be a sorcerer, I advise you all to curb your tongues, use your heads, and flatter his ego. Otherwise, this trip might be a quick one.
It may be a quick one regardless, my good man, with the news that I have to deliver. I sort of shake my head and press forward.
All right. You press ahead. The tower is about half an hour or so walk. The terrain is lightly wooded. There's hardly even much of a path. You can barely discern a path. It doesn't look like it's much used at all. But it does get you there. And you find yourself through some trees, and you find yourself staring up at the tower, which you're pretty sure now is at least it's got to be 6 to 8 stories high. It's quite impressive structure.
Is it clean, free of vines, or does it look old and unused?
It is clean and free of vines. It looks like it was built yesterday.
This is an impressive place, no doubt.
Perhaps he keeps the groundskeeper. I would knock on the door if there's like one of those big heavy metal ones, or just knock with my hand.
There it is. Yep. There are huge knockers on that door.
Perhaps
Use them big knockers, and I'll knock that door down. No, that's not the door.
Only comment about perhaps the groundskeeper. Perhaps he uses magic.
Yes, well, either way, impressive nonetheless. And you notice that Otto's not all that, scared of this for some reason.
That is a bit suspicious, Dad.
He likes shiny things more than he's fearful of stuff.
You said you knocked on the door, you said?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, like about 5-10 seconds after he does, I'll go up and give another impatient, healthy knock on the door as well.
Okay. After about a minute wait, you hear a bolt sliding, a heavy bolt behind the door, and the massive doors open.
I just picture someone walking down all those damn stairs.
Oh God! It's the first pulley system elevator. Oh my, hello.
And you see a young woman like this standing there, and she looks the three of you over, and you can all make a perception roll for me.
Well, after you say whatever, I'm gonna push the young boy up towards her, grinning.
That would, yeah.
Okay. I will also see.
I would straighten myself up after being pushed by this rugged bastard and look the. Well, she's probably older than me. I would look her and.
Yeah, she's
Good evening.
older than you. Not by a great amount.
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Reinnold Lightdorf. I believe I bear your master some poor news.
You see some concern pass over her eyes, but she looks at it and says, "I believe it is still early in the afternoon, sir."
We've been walking quite a ways. My perception of the time must be a bit poor.
She said, "You have business with my master." I've not
Yes.
seen you before. Is he expecting you?
No, but he may be expecting some news about his apprentice.
And you see it that she perks up a bit and says, "You have news of Percival."
Yes, but I fear that neither you nor your master may like the news I have to bring.
You see genuine fear pass over her face for just a minute, and she says, "Come in," and stands aside.
I would step up the stone and just start looking around as I come in.
About how old is this woman, did you say?
You're guessing she's probably 30 or late 20s.
And you said she's rather attractive.
If she looks attractive to you, then she is.
Well, yeah, the picture, yeah. In that case,
Yeah,
I'll
that's what she looks like.
kicking my boots off and wiping them off before
Here's
I
a
walk
somewhat bigger picture of her.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otto is just kind of silent and looking around, and he's quite the talker, and he hasn't really said anything at all.
And she goes to the door and closes it back up again. And as she's doing that, you can see it looks like this whole section over here is like almost like a makeshift kitchen. You can see there's a cooking pit, a table with some pots and things, using some sacks of grain and other comestibles. And over here looks to be like just a pitiful little living area with a couple of sleeping mats of furs on the floor and a bookcase with some books in it.
I am immediately going to look at the books unless she's asking me stuff.
No,
some
she's
books.
occupied for a couple minutes closing the door.
I'm just looking at titles and stuff.
Make an intelligence roll for me. You don't have enough time to get a good sense of what they are, but they have an intriguing look about them to you, I would say. They're not books that you know.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch any, obviously, because I'm in somebody else's place, but I'm going to look at them.
Look, Father, 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish.
I've wanted this book. All right, so she comes back in and doesn't seem to take too much notice of Reinnold over there by the bookcase. And all right, well, actually, since you were doing the talking, she kind of does look over, but doesn't seem terribly concerned. And she says, "What is your news, please?"
Oh, yes. Well, my father and I are merchants by trade. Well, we were beginning our business in Shadowshade once again. I was coming back to town with what was left from our shop when I was beset on the road by highwaymen. I simply wanted to be done with the affair as quickly as possible, but the gentleman in charge of them, I say gentleman lightly, said that he had a man named Percival that was an apprentice of a wizard of some sort here, and he asked me to deliver his ransom demands since he could not be bothered to come here himself and face the wizard.
So he is alive.
If you believe the word of this man, then yes, he is alive. But they are asking for 20 gold crowns, which I am to take to the Filton
20
blacksmiths.
gold crowns? That's absurd.
I shake my head. This is quite a price, but he figures that the old man, or your master, my apologies, will pay it. He expects me to deliver it in 2 weeks' time, or the orc will have his way with the apprentice.
I've been standing pretty lax and carefree, but when you mention orc, I grow tense, focused on you, and I frown and scowl.
Yeah, Otto
I don't
winces
say
when he
anything.
adds that.
What does Otto say?
He just winces when Reinnold mentions the orc having his way with the apprentice. It's like kind of. Oh, you didn't need to say that part, type of thing.
You gotta drive your point home, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And if we give him this 20 gold crowns, Percival will be released.
He claims that once the payment is secured and in hand, that he will release the boy, but the word of a highwayman is hardly reputable. That said, I didn't see what choice that you might have. Then again, I am only the messenger. I put my hands up, sort of resigned. I had no part in this affair until I was waylaid.
And what are we to do with this 20 crowns?
It is to be delivered to the back of the Filton blacksmith's shop. If he requested that I do it, but if you do not trust me with such a sum, I could guide you or whoever you wish to take it there.
Is there more?
There were several bandits. Maybe I could describe some of them. Maybe you'd know them. Other than that, no, that's all that was asked of me.
I don't know any rough men like that. She sighs and says, "Very well, wait here. I will discuss it with my master."
And I nod.
And
And as she's walking away, I would, ma'am, would it be troublesome of me to look inside your tomes? I'm an avid reader and I enjoy a good book.
she looks back at you with sort of a mercurial smile, and shrugs and says, "Suit yourself, but take care." And she heads up the stairs.
I'm immediately grabbing one of these books and looking.
Otto immediately says, "Now, son, she said take care. She said that for a reason. Sometimes reading the wrong thing can, well, potentially cause issues, I have heard. You would not want to cause any trouble for the wizard or us."
And I would look at the ground and then look at my father. Well, Father, you didn't seem to be too bothered by magic when we were about to enter this place. It shouldn't be much of a concern to you then, should it? Smile.
Yeah.
Through some pages.
You know, he just looks nervously at what you're doing. Just keep her words in mind, son. Take care.
Though I secretly admire their banter, I'm going to saunter over by the kitchen and open up my rucksack, start eating some stuff and drinking from my waters again.
Okay, so Reinnold, you look them over, and now that you have some time to kind of look through. I've given you a little description there.
If they have titles, I'm going to take down. If I have any kind of parchment, I didn't specifically name that. I'm just going to try to recall from memory later, I guess, some of the titles and see if I can reach out to Filton later. But I'm going to take the one that I have and read.
You know for sure that these titles would not be found in Filton. There is a bookstore in Filton, which is incredibly rare. It's very much of an oddity. And they're very proud of it, apparently. And you've been in there because you love books, but you've never seen anything like this on their shelves.
Yeah, so I'm pretty engrossed by this going through whatever one I've got in my hand. I'm actually even just going to sit down like right in front of it and start going through it.
And Otto asks, what is it? What does it say?
I'm blatantly ignoring him the first time that he tries to say something to me.
And he actually doesn't press and just kind of frowns and looks away.
And what is Wrecker doing over there?
He's seeing how it's a kitchen where you prepare food. He's just going to go over there. That's in his mind. That's the proper place to eat. He's just going to saunter over there and just start eating from his own goods and drinking from his water skin. His mind, he's just, in his mind, he's served his purpose and he's currently continuing to. He's protecting these two.
Yeah. You can see she was in the middle of chopping up some vegetables and roots and things. Looks like she maybe was going to prepare a stew or something, but you interrupted her. All right,
yeah,
so
I'm not gonna help finish because then she'll think I poisoned it or something.
Reinhold, the time passes way too fast for you. You're very engrossed. Otto, what are you doing while you're waiting?
I think he's basically just kind of pacing around the room impatiently, getting anxious as they sit here and wait for some wizard to respond to their very bad news, and thinking of his very bad dream and the troubles in Shadowshade and all that stuff. His mind is going like a 1,000 miles a minute, and just it's kind of in silence, pacing around.
All right, well, she appears on the steps probably half an hour later, although Reinnold, to you, it seemed like 5 minutes, like just not nearly long enough. You were getting engrossed, and I'll tell you a little more later. But she comes down the steps, and you can see she's holding a small money pouch in her hand. And she just kind of waits for your attention.
It takes me a second while I look up from the book, and I'm like, oh, and I put it down, and I'm gonna put it down, put it where it was, and try to put it as precisely where it was as I can, and then get up. So I lay and look at the bag, and I take it his response was one of agreement, or
of a sort. He has given me these coins to deliver, but I am charged with destroying these bandits and returning the coins to my master. Although he has given me leave to use some of that coin to employ assistance in the matter.
And Otto perks up at that. What sort of assistance, hired men? We are not warriors, my son and I.
She says, do you know the town of Filton?
And he kind of
begrudgingly,
he
looks at Reinnold and said, you spoke of the town as though you knew it.
Yes, we lived there for a time. Well, a time, I say, most of our lives.
She says, very well. If you will help me trace this money to its end, I will divide among you half of this amount. If you'll agree to that. She looks over at Wrecker and says, your muscle would be appreciated.
And Otto kind of, yeah, go ahead.
Like, as she was coming down the stairs, I would be doing something similar to what Reinhold was doing. I'd be over here eating and act like I was a kid caught with his hand in a cookie jar. And I'd like be brushing the crumbs off, putting my stuff up, and then slowly moving over to her, listening to her response. Then when she mentions her plan, I'll actually kind of grin and nod affirmingly towards her. And then when she actually asks me about it, I says, I have come here to help these two. And if their travels take them to Filton, though I do not know the place, I shall go with them and yourself and help you further.
She says, good. My master is of a mind, and I agree that if we give in to these bandits' demands, they will only demand more the next time. They must be dealt with.
I would,
Otto,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, Otto kind of says, my lady, I hate to ask this, but these bandits have swords and God knows what else. And how will you help us defeat them? We have one man here, Ricker. My son and I, well, we are merchants.
I'll slap you before she even says anything, if I can. I'll slap him on the back real hard, push him forward and laugh and go, ha! You don't need no help, my friend. You can talk them to death.
Arrow straight
And
up grinning at that one.
yeah, he like straightens himself and he's like, I am serious, you brute. I do not want to be killed for any man. You can wade out in front and swing your fist and hammer. What will we do? This woman will be killed. We will be killed.
She says, I have gifts you've not seen.
And he kind of
Really?
draws into silence. Yeah. He's
No,
like,
I would. Yeah.
very well. He looks resigned.
She crosses her arms and she says, truthfully, I'm not sure I'd even require your assistance, but I prefer company. It's lonely down here.
I would.
And Percival has been gone for some time. I would appreciate a talking companion. And she kind of looks at Reinnold.
And basically, very unaware of her. He's like, well, yes, I do have a gift of gab. I can escort you. It would be my pleasure.
He says, good, it is settled.
Use what you know of the city and help the woman. Grow a pair of balls, for fuck's sake.
He says, I'm afraid I don't know the city well. I've only been a couple of times. It is usually Percival who makes the trip because he has a pair of balls between his legs.
Yes, well, Filton is, well, he just kind of is like, Filton is a dangerous place for, well, you see, your Percival was not the only one that, well, came into some bad luck there, and I would just rather not go inside, perhaps. And he just kind of begins to kind of stammer and just clam up.
You can read and write. Can you draw?
Well, Reinnold could perhaps take you inside. And he just kind of, yes, I can, well, I can sketch a bit, I suppose.
I shake my head and snort, and I'll just step past you, and I go, fine, leave your fucking father here. Just you and I go.
She laughs and says, you're afraid of a city.
He's like, my good woman, my wife
Surely
died
it's
there.
dangerous.
and it bears some pain for me.
I see.
We all have pain. Learn
Yes.
to live with it and move on.
She shrugs and says, "If the young one here knows the town, that will be sufficient."
I would nod. Yes, I am quite familiar with Filton. I'm sure my father has good reason for being afraid of such a place.
Snort scoff at that.
Very well, then the boy shall lead us when we get to town.
Wait till the appropriate time and then just go, "My lady, if I may."
If you may what?
I'm basically waiting for her to acknowledge us. Says, if and when we find these men, you can blast the humans to hell with all your magic for all I care, but leave the orc for me.
She shrugs and says, "Dead is dead."
Very well then.
She says, "If it is the same to you, I would like to leave now. There's no reason to lose the rest of the day."
It is almost dark. We're going to travel at night?
No, it's only
Okay.
only about 2 in the afternoon. By this
All
point.
right. Yeah, never mind then.
You if you pushed, you could get back to the village, but you don't. If you didn't push it, you would at least come short of the village.
We'll see what she does.
Yeah, she wants to go.
Yeah.
And you kind of see an impatience about her. Maybe worry. And she just goes over and grabs her fur and grabs up a walking stick and puts together some food for herself in a satchel and slings it over her shoulder.
My impatience is just ongoing sense of inherent irritability.
I would just follow her step because I would show her if she's in a mind to go quickly. I would lead her quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose.
Okay.
How far we get.
Yeah.
So I guess I have a question. Did I bring any of my funds with me, or would I keep that close, or would I keep it hidden, or?
That's up to you. You know better than I how you would handle that.
He was so freaked out he would keep it on him at all times, I think. And so he's like, my lady, I have one small boon to ask of you before we depart. I know that this is of an inherent importance to you and you wish to be away, but you see, as I had mentioned, me and my son and I have been through some quite terrible times of late, and I wish to perhaps give him a gift. That book there, I do not know what significance it has to you or your master, but I have some coin, and I would be willing to purchase it from you for him. If that is something that can be done.
He says, "I have read every book on that shelf 3 or 4 times. It will not be missed. What can you offer for it?"
I put my head in my hands like, oh no.
And he says, "Well, what is your asking price? I know not the value of such things. Maybe my son can decide." And he waves him over.
Which book had he in mind?
And he looks at you to decide.
Mm-hmm.
I would just sort of wave my hands. My father speaks out of turn. I would not infringe on your property. Father, if you wish to give me a gift, give me leave to, say, have a few days to myself, since I'm working your share.
She shrugs and she says, "No, truly, I have no use for them anymore. I have waited and begged for years for new books, and finally I was supposed to get some. That was the shipment lost. So,
he says,
if we recover our lost goods, then I care nothing of those books anymore.
Since it's
She
being
says
offered.
if you would like to, if you like, we can include some books in lieu of certain payment of your share of the payment. Would that be acceptable?
I had a different idea in mind, ma'am, if I could discuss it with you along the road.
She said, I had hoped we could talk. I grow weary of silence. The old man does not talk much or pay much attention to either of us, to be truthful. She says, then let us be on our way.
And Otto kind of gives his son a look like ungrateful little shit and kind of walks out after her.
All right. Yep. She pushes the door open and walks away and doesn't seem to be at all concerned that the doors are wide open after you leave. And you are back on the road.
On the road again.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any conversation on the road? I know, Reinnold, you want to talk to her when you have an opportunity. Is this a private conversation?
Probably.
Do you want to just have it out of game? Or do you want the other two listen in? Yeah, okay. So
I believe that they will be honest in their actions.
Yes. I appreciate the value of players not knowing everything about every other player. I think that's fun, but I don't like people to miss out on interesting things either. So as long as everyone's happy with playing dumb about things they don't know about, I am totally fine with keeping everything.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
I will compromise while y'all conversate and go use the bathroom.
There you go.
But I would essentially, because she's following she knows the way to Shadowshade.
Yeah, she knows how to get to the road and follow the road. She knows how to get there. You just follow the road. But she's basically, she doesn't know the town very well at all. So
I would keep in close step after a little while, sort of approach and say, "Ma'am, about the payment I wish to discuss with you earlier. I wanted to give us the time to stretch our legs before we had a conversation about it." I won't say that I have no use for coin. Everyone has a use for coin, but I would prefer if I could perhaps visit from time to time and read some of your tomes.
She smiles. And she said, you have a curiosity about certain things, I think.
I'm always interested in learning more about the world we live in, particularly things that people don't seek out or are too afraid to understand.
She nods. She said, you will find some of that in those books.
Well, if that seems a permissible reward, then I would take that in lieu of payment. I doubt my father would be much inclined to do the same, though, so his share will probably go right into his pockets.
No, I take him for the kind that likes cold, hard coin.
And I would sort of purse my lips and nod, just like, yeah, that's Dad.
She says men value different things. Some value knowledge, some value coin, some pride, some honor, some respect. Everyone is different.
Indeed, though I think that there's a disproportion there.
Surely.
I would argue that more men are like my father, and probably like Wrecker.
Well, men like your father tend to live longer than those who are not like your father.
Do they really, though?
They learn how to survive. Coin can get you a long way.
Surviving doesn't seem the same as living, but I don't have much experience otherwise, so I suppose I'll take your word for it.
Well, I can't tell you much about living. I've been cooped up with that old man for 20 years, since I was very young.
There's some benefit to silence, if I can be honest. When you hear that one talk all day and just gesture back towards him, talk and speak and bicker and moan, family, blood relations aside, it can be tiresome.
He says, I don't know which I'd like worse, or like more, though. Percival is also not much of a talker.
Well, you're welcome to hang around with my father and I. He can tell you about everything and everything else.
I doubt I would be very welcome in your little village.
I would extend an invitation into my home. I can promise no harm would come to you there.
Can you? She said the people there all seem to think that we are demon worshippers or warlocks of some kind.
Well, just don't summon any demons in town and I think you'll be fine.
If I could, I would.
Gonna go wide-eyed at that, and it's like, because I haven't seen her do anything yet, so I don't know. I'm just gonna, like, the uncomfortable laugh, like,
She said the old man might be capable of such things, but for all the time I've spent with him, he's taught me very little.
Well, if it's any consolation, ma'am, I'm curious to see it put to the test.
She says that makes two of us. I've not had many opportunities to put my gifts to the test. Nor have you, I would think.
Oh, I've had plenty of opportunities to carry carts and load goods.
That's not your gift.
My father would say it differently.
You will not always be under your father's roof.
My father would say that differently, too. I think I would.
And she says, I think I will look forward to our visits, and there's much you can learn.
I agree. I'm looking forward to it. Assuming that we make it through this. And I sort of...
She smiles confidently and says, it's some little band of ragamuffins. This should be difficulty.
Laugh at ragamuffins and then just sort of continue to banter.
Alright. Is Otto complaining incessantly on the way back?
No, he's dragging ass, but he's not, like, complaining too much. It's kind of beyond it. He's so tired and so sore, and he actually doesn't want to look like a massive pussy in front of this lady, so he's kind of being a little quieter about it.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll be inspecting his feet for blisters, though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, you're not taking too quick a pace, so I would say you come up short of the village by a couple hours by the time it's dark. So unless you really care to push on, you would probably stop. But that's up to you.
Actually, I guess I am.
Actually, let's have Otto make a strength check. So how he's holding up, whether he can even go on or whether he has to like. You could if you wanted to. Your blisters are painful right now, but you could press on if you chose to.
Yeah, he is. He is happy to sleep.
I was going to say, the thought of that ratty-ass mattress is motivation to continue on.
Yeah, I mean, he's so tired he doesn't care where he sleeps at this point. Like, I envision Otto kind of as a guy who, if he wanted to, would be in actually decent shape, but he is just so lazy, and he's kind of like got a belly and all kind of that stuff. So
Yeah.
He makes me think immediately as old Stanley Tweedle off of the old Lex TV show.
Okay. Any conversation over the campfire? Or do you want to just move on to the morning? Nothing happens at night.
I talked to the lady briefly about battle tactics. So he goes, yeah. I'm a former merc, I'm like,
Yeah. Okay.
So when we find these men, what is your plan?
Well, first we have to find the men. That's clearly our first task.
I would say they would find us.
You could use the coins, or what they would perceive to be the coins as bait, perhaps. Draw them out.
That was my thought. They have a location to place the coins. Someone must come to get them.
He'll probably just send a single man. Nothing there. Then he'll go back to get word to the others to kill him.
She says, you have been thinking about this.
Sadly, it is my curse, knowing a lot about death.
Well, then, I would be curious to see how you handle the situation.
If it is but one man, we would act quick, subdue him, take him back, and interrogate him. Make them lead us to the others, and then sort them out how the gods will.
Yes, I don't know about that. What if they have a camp of 12 men? I do not know what this one can do, and he kind of nods towards the woman, and he's like, but I think that would be rather much, don't you?
If they had 12 men, they would have sent 12 men to the wizard's castle.
He just kind of shrugs. You are guessing. This is unknown. Seems foolish to walk into something you do not know.
So we all die sometime, and at least I'm willing to act, not complain and whine like a bitch in heat.
He rolls his eyes, and he's like,
Reinnold's just shaking his head at this conversation.
He's like, you sound like, yes, all the other men that die in their youth, stupid and headstrong.
I'm gonna growl at you, and I go, do I look young to you? I'm almost 40, so it's like...
Yeah. He's like, well, you certainly look stupid.
And now I'm kind of looking up, because that didn't sound good.
She says, boys, there is no need to fight among ourselves. We don't even know what we are up against yet.
That is my point.
Yes, so it's a little premature to be making battle plans when we don't know quite what is ahead.
It never hurts to know what the course of action is.
Yes, if it comes to battle, I will defer to your expertise.
Yes, 2 merchants, a woman, and a warrior.
She said your tongue seems fairly sharp. That should do some damage.
He just like grunts and kind of like pulls the covers over his head and tries to sleep.
All right. I would say that's the end of that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the lady wasn't there, I probably would have attacked you. So
Well, that's good then.
yeah,
I would look at Wrecker as my father's going to sleep and just shake my head and shrug.
but it's quite apparent on his face that he's doing all he can to restrain himself.
I'd probably read for a little bit and then get ready to tuck myself in.
All right. The next morning you awake, and it's just a little bit of a rainy day.
God.
So yes, I'm imagining Otto awakens rather miserable to his damp blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediate cursing and complaining.
Yeah, I'd like to wake up early if I could, and
Certainly.
kick him awake and yank his blanket. Time to get off. We have to move.
And he's like, it's raining. Oh, I hate rain.
Quit your whining, woman. Get off your ass and walk.
And he, like, stands up and just, like, he's
Why
like,
is he on and throw his wet blanket right back at him in his face?
it's like, oh, thank you so much for your help. He is, like, oblivious that Ricker would be, like, offended because he just basically talks to everyone like this and most times, right? He's like, well, help me fold it. And he starts, like, trying to fold up his blanket like a knob, right?
I just sigh and shake my head and do the whole thing where you grab one end, grabs the other end, and do the big folding maneuver.
Yeah. And he's like, good. And he's like, basically, as you grab both ends, he kind of, like, lets go and lets you just, like, finish it for him.
And,
walk away from them and do a Jekyll and Hyde mood change to the woman and be all nice and cordial and go, my lady, are you ready to travel?
She says, I am. She says, I see those two are well versed in women's work.
You think they were women themselves? No offense.
None taken. You haven't seen what this woman can do.
I hope to.
She shrugs. She then heads off, assuming you're all coming with her.
Yeah, give about 20 minutes into the walk, and I'll just ask out of the blue. I'll go, so you and this person, you were close?
He has been my only companion for 20 years.
Were you lovers?
She
Very
looks at
direct.
you sidelong, and she says, "Why are you concerned about that? You
Love
have
is
a
the
problem
powerful
with
force.
these things?"
I just like to know who and what I'm fighting for. If you love this man, I will do all I can to kill your foes.
And let's say I love him.
Very well.
Otto's eyes are rolling at this entire conversation if he hears it. Like, why is this brute talking like this type of thing?
I'm very direct, man.
Yeah.
Very direct. You can't shape metal if you don't force yourself upon it, man. You gotta constantly oppose and submit everything around you to your will.
That was almost a Ronnie Johnson line. Can't shape metal, man. I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah. Power love, man.
But yeah, but Reinnold's not saying anything unless he's being engaged. He's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, Wrecker's very blunt. He's very direct. He knows when to hold his tongue, but he has no problems asking questions.
All right. When you arrive at Shadowshade, do you pass straight through?
I think Otto has some business he wants to attend to, so he asks, he's like, I have some business to attend to, but perhaps you can take rest in our home for an hour, maybe 2, no more. And then we will begin again. Rest and eat.
When were we supposed to report for work? That ain't anytime soon, is it?
No, you'll work out with the village headman the days that you want to work on his lordship's behalf. That can be worked out.
I remember from the first session, it was like 2 days there and back to the city or whatever.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't one of those, oh God, we're AWOL.
No. As long as you provide those services, you're free to travel. You're not serfs or slaves.
Cool beans. But it is community service.
Monthly community service.
Mhm.
Like 11 days of fucking fuck off, Dad.
Actually 12 if you're doing his church service.
Yeah, 10 and 2. Yeah.
Hey, you offered.
Yes,
You were gonna
did.
suggest it anyway. I beat you to the punch so you felt like you owed me something.
There you go. Alright, so what is Otto doing? Yeah, she makes herself comfortable in your home. As comfortable as she can, and
Give me some wine.
she looks a little impatient, but not unduly so.
Yeah, and Otto is going to try to do this quickly. He is, so hearing rumors about the pistol in town, he takes all his money on him, right, which he keeps on him at all times, and he is going to, now, would I have heard this from a certain person? Because if I would have, that's who I would go to.
I think you, I'm guessing what happened is you probably went to the tavern once to just check it out and try the food there and just kind of see. And you overheard somebody saying something about so-and-so and his old pistol. And you don't remember the name, but it got some laughs.
Okay, I'm gonna go there then.
Okay.
And if this is taken away from everything else, then I can just skip it. That's fine.
Oh, not at all. No, I'm not. I don't have any time to share. Although we are gonna have to end around 11. So we've got about 15 minutes left.
Okay.
Before we gotta stop, but that'll be a fine stopping point anyway. So yeah, you can go to the tavern. It's a little early, but they're there cleaning up from the night before, and you see Karsten sprawled out in front of the fireplace after his drunken night. You don't really know who he is, but he's that big bald guy. And the guy says, "What can I do for you, friend?"
Yes, my name is Otto, by the way. I am new in town, bringing a merchant stall here, and I am looking for oddities.
I've heard the talk, and I am eager to see what you can bring to us.
Yes, and that is why I've come. I was in here a few days past, and I heard mention of a pistol.
He smiles. He says, "Ah, yes, still in his old pistol. He's very proud of that thing. Lord knows if he knows how to even use it, but yes."
Well, I wonder if he would care to make some money off of it.
I don't know. That was given to him by his father. It's, I think, important to him. But you can certainly talk to him. You'll find him working the fields.
And he's like, well, can you direct me in his general direction?
He nods and steps outside and looks around in the fields, and he spots him and points him out to you.
Okay, and Otto will nod. Thank you, friend. I hope to have something with your name on it very soon for good prices.
He says, I wouldn't look askance at good prices.
The best prices in town. And he kind of smiles.
Yeah.
The only prices in town, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He looks like he's thinking about that. Okay. So he pointed him out. It's this. If you're looking at at the center of town here, it's this.
Okay.
He's it's this guy.
Okay.
You can see him out in the field.
Mm-hmm. So he'll approach him, and he kind of waves like a goofy wave as he's walking towards him.
Yeah.
Hello there, sir.
He looks immediately concerned. And you see he kind of picks up his pace. He wasn't working very fast. And without looking at you, just says, "What can I do for you, sir?"
Yes, my name is Otto of the newly established Shadowshade Mercantile Company. And he kind of smiles like this broad, very cheesy, greasy smile, and he says, I heard you have some oddities in your possession, sir.
He stops and looks up and he says, "Oddities? What's an oddity?"
Well, I have heard some very specific oddity. I hear you have a flintlock pistol in your possession.
He says, "It was given to me by my pappy."
Ah, well, let me ask you, sir, does it work?
Yeah. He says, "Of course it works."
Ah, and he says, and do you have shot and powder for this?
He says, "I think so."
Like, well, how would you like to be the Shadowshade Mercantile Company's very first customer?
You want me to buy my own pistol?
Oh no, sir, we are buying in this case.
I see. I think.
And he says, sir, I would offer you good money for your pistol. I understand it has significant emotional importance to you, but do you have a family, sir?
I do not.
You do not. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I am also a widower. And he kind of like frowns and he says, but one day perhaps you will again. And how better to support them with a healthy amount of funds.
Maybe. You want to buy my pistol is what you're saying.
That is what I'm saying. And everything that goes along with it. Flint, shot, the whole caboodle.
You can make a will check or an intelligence check, your choice, with one boon.
They're both the same for me, I think.
Alright, yeah, that's true, they are. It depends on the angle. It sounds like sounds like an intelligence check to me.
Okay, that's fine.
And one boon, because you are a well-practiced slimy mother.
Okay, one boon.
He says, well, it is just kind of sitting on the mantle.
Yes, no reason to just collect dust when you could collect coin.
He says, I don't know how much it's worth. What's a pistol worth?
Well, he's like, I tell you what, and I don't know, but I'm gonna lowball the shit out of him, obviously. He's like,
pistols are exceedingly expensive. I
Yeah.
believe they are 5 gold crowns normally.
Okay.
Which is outrageous, but it's the rich man's weapon, right?
Yes. He's like, well, I mean, this guy probably, I assume, has next to no money, right? I have...
You're guessing most of the people in this village
Right.
are pretty poor. Yeah.
And he's like, I have a gold crown with your name on it, sir. Imagine what you could do with a gold crown.
I could put it on my mantelpiece.
You could, and show it off to all the eligible ladies in town.
Truly, I heard you right. You said a gold crown?
A gold crown.
I don't know of anyone in the village that has a crown.
So I know we talked about my proceeds, right? So
yes, he puts his hand out, like to shake right away. Like he looks like you better take this deal before you change your mind. Kind of puts his hand out.
And he's like, I would inspect the weapon first, but I believe on principle we have a deal. And he reaches and shakes his hand.
Okay. He says, we should do this right away, so that I can get back to my work.
Of course, I would not want to take you from your work.
I'm telling you, he rushes back to his house.
Okay.
He starts trying to engage you in conversation. You get the sense that he's just trying to keep you talking so that you don't have time to think about how, what a great deal he's probably getting here.
Yeah. He's like, yes, and he just like makes small talk with him.
Okay. Yeah. So he takes you back, and he shows you the pistol. And it looks like a pretty fine specimen to you, but it is a little old. And it looks like he's made attempts at cleaning it. It has its little ramrod. It's a little rusty. And he shows you some cartridges that he obviously has no idea what to do with these things.
Yeah.
There's like a little jar of gunpowder, and you can tell that the gunpowder is just completely ruined.
Yeah. He's like, oh, sir, I hate to tell you, but this is not going to work at all. And he looks at the gunpowder and like frowns, and he's like, I don't know that this will fire.
He looks inside and he says, but it's all there. I haven't touched it. I've been very careful.
Yes. And he's like, you told me it fired, did you not?
I'm sure it does. I've not personally fired it, but my father did many times.
Oh, did he? I'm just kind of like...
He fought with the Crusaders.
Did he now? He's like, well, I think I might have to, unfortunately, pass on this opportunity. I am very regretful of this.
You can see his face just falling at this point.
And he says, I'm sorry.
He says, but it must be worth something.
He says, yes, well, I suppose it could be worth something. And he's like, let me look at it again. And he kind of like does a cursory look over it and acts like real hoity-toity as he's doing it. And he's like, oh, the ramrod is, it is slightly bent. The flange is, well, it's corroded. And he's like, well, I don't know, sir.
He looks at it like he's very impressed that you, whatever that word was you just used.
Yeah.
He's like, he's nodding sagely like he knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, he says, well, so what is half of a gold dragon? Is it 5 silvers or something?
So there's the monetary system is actually very simple.
Okay.
There's 10 brass coins, 10 little brass pennies and a copper, 10 coppers and a silver, 10 silvers and a gold crown. Okay.
So he would say, well, it is in poor condition, and I do not know that this will fire, but I see how upset you are, so I will give you a good deal. Let's say 3 silver, which will help you out immensely, I think, sir. and get this relic off your shelf from collecting dust.
All right. Try a willpower check. A will check.
Mhm.
No boon this time. No, that's a hard sell there.
Oh!
He says, I really had my heart set on that gold coin. He said, 6 silver
And
that's still a lot of money. I mean, it's really not that much money.
he's like, yes, it is a lot of money, but I see how I want to be your friend. He's like, my name is Otto. What is your name, sir?
Dylan,
Yes.
sir. It's a great pleasure to meet you, Mr. Otto.
Yes, and he puts a hand on. He's like, I tell you what, Dylan, 5 and we can have a deal right here.
He says, 5 would be acceptable, yes.
Yes, do you have a sack I can wrap this in to protect it from the rain?
He starts scurrying around his sad little house trying to find something suitable. He finally comes up with an old rag and says, "This should keep it safe. I sometimes use this to clean it."
Like, yes, I'm sure you did a wonderful job. And he wraps it up the best he can, right? And he's like, would you happen to have any? I'm kind of hungry. And he like looks around, sees he has any food to maybe give him.
He has some simple fare. He lives all by himself. He has some simple fare, and of course, and he pours you some ale and gets you some bread.
Yeah, so he eats it and drinks it. And he's like, well, thank you, sir. I much appreciate this, and welcome to being the first customer of Shadowshade Mercantile Company.
I'm truly the first one?
You are the first one, sir.
And you don't mind if I tell everyone that?
Well, you wouldn't want people to be jealous and envious of you, would you?
He looks at you like he doesn't quite follow you.
He's like, they will know that you have all this money. I would not want anyone knowing I had that much money if I did not have a guard. And he's like, looks at him very like, you better watch out. And he's like, I do not know jealous people. They steal and they hurt.
He says, maybe you're right. I had thought to keep them displayed prominently on my fireplace, but perhaps I should hide them.
He says, I think that is wise for now. When I have supplies in, I think you should use some of that and come and buy from the Shadowshade Mercantile Company.
He says, that's a good idea. What else would I use my coins for?
That's right.
Except to show them, and if I'm not going to show them, then I suppose I better use them.
That's right.
You're a very smart man.
I'm just here to help my new friends in Shadowshade.
Well, I'm happy to call myself your friend, sir. And he puts his hand out to shake your hand again.
And he shakes his hand and gives him a big winning smile and kind of smacks him on the shoulder. He's like, well, I'll be off now. I have some business to attend to. You know, busy man, busy day.
Of course. I'm sure you have lots of business. And I should get back to the fields.
Yes. Well, it is
an exciting day for me.
Most exciting, sir. And he's like, well, I'll be off. And he kind of pats his little pouch belly and wraps up the gun very securely and kind of tucks it under, kind of hunches over it and puts it under his shirt and kind of walks off.
Okay. All right.
Oh, fuck.
And he heads back to the house. So.
Alright, you see Otto come strolling in with a little shit-eating grin on his face, I'm guessing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
till he sees that I brought out his best wine for a guest.
Ah, yes. That might change his mood.
It actually doesn't. He looks at it and he's like, "Yes, this is a day to celebrate, my son." And his like mood from earlier is completely 100 and 180, and he kind of like on the table kind of like lays it down and like spreads it out, and he's like, "The first purchase of the Shadowshade Mercantile Company," and he kind of just like chuckles.
Where did you get this, Father? I'm
Oh,
kind of disappointed that he's not upset about me drinking his wine.
Yeah, he he's like, "Pour me a glass." He's like, "Oh, I bought it off some bumpkin."
For how much?
Oh, I would say 5 silver.
And I understand the price of goods because I'm around this all the time. So I'm almost like, my eyes go wide, I almost spit out the wine. Like, what?
Oh yes, he will be around soon to spend that silver with us. So who knows what the real price is? And he kind of looks at it and he's like, I would like to use this perhaps as well, but I don't think it'll fire currently. And he kind of like looks at it sadly and he's like, either way, I'll sell it for a massive profit.
I just shake my head in disbelief at 5 silvers. Unbelievable.
Yes, if you see a man Dylan come by and he mentions it, just, I don't know, ignore him.
I pour my father a good glass of wine and give it to him, because I'm impressed that he pulled that off. That's ridiculous. That's like fucking 5% or 10% of what it's worth. So it's like,
Well, it is used and a little old, so yeah. But still.
That's gonna get quadruple the price you paid for it.
Yeah. And he just says, well, maybe I'll be able to use this coming up. I haven't shot one of these in years. And he kind of looks at it and he's like, we'll see. And he kind of like packs it up in a little, I assume he has some sort of like small little box you can put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, either way, sold or use, it will come in handy. And he's like, I have already eaten, but feel free to help yourselves before we leave.
Oh, I would eat from our meager stores. Man.
What is Record doing during this?
Well, looking at the map, it looks like they would have to go to my place to go out of town.
They will.
Yeah, so I just go back to my place and chill out there and just tell them to come get me whenever they're heading out.
Okay. All right. Well, I imagine they do about an hour after you chill out a bit.
Check on my forge. I'm a stickler for detail. Make sure everything's locked up properly. Windows barred and everything before I leave.
Okay. And then it's off back on the road again. And that seems like a fitting place to end this session.
Very appropriate.
Very nice.
All right.